Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are going to be kind of continuing the Ranking Doctor Who by Decade series I've been doing. Now, one of my patrons, Trevor Hicks, came up with a good idea recently. He kind of wanted to know what I think would be the top 5 worst stories in each season. Kind of like the worst story of a season, the top 5 of those. Looking at the worst stories in every season of Doctor Who. Which ones would be my top 5. That was an interesting idea, and it got me thinking that I wanted to do something similar, which would be ranking the worst stories of each season for each decade. Like today we're going to be looking at 60's Who, because this is kind of like a double subjective video, because what story you think is the weakest in a season is going to vary from person to person. It's a very subjective opinion of which story each person is going to consider the weakest in the season. And then ranking those, because that's also very subjective. So a lot of subjectivity going on here, because I have to decide which one I think is the least favorite, which is going to vary. And then I have to rank those, which would also vary from person to person. And it seems like a lot of fun. I like this idea. We're going to start with the 60's in this video. Now the stories I selected, some of them are really hard to choose to, really hard. For season 1, I went with The Edge of Destruction. Season 2, The Web Planet. Season 3, The Gunfighters. I had not seen all of season 3, or all of season 1, technically. Season 4, The Faceless Ones. Still have not seen all of season 4. I love all of season 4 that I've seen. Season 5, Fury from the Deep. And season 6, The Dominators. Those are the stories we'll be looking at here, as I consider them to be the weakest of their respective seasons. And I'm going to rank them from worst to best. At the bottom of the list, in 6th place, is Fury from the Deep, purely because of the animation being terrible. The story is fantastic. The story is actually really good. I love this story. If there is one missing story I could recover magically, it would be Fury from the Deep. I love Fury from the Deep. I love the subject matter. I love the existing footage. I love Fury from the Deep. But the animation is terrible. The animation, you could tell it was rushed. I don't put the blame completely on the animation team. There are some actual artistic choices they made I don't agree with. But their subsequent animations with Galaxy 4 and Abominable Snowmen have both been very good. So I put it more on the limited time and a little bit of the blame on some of the choices, like expanding the sets to make them less claustrophobic, which goes against the nature of the story in my opinion. The animation just pulls this one down for me. You guys know I don't like the Fury animation. I prefer to watch the Recon, I'll put it that way. So it goes at the bottom of the list. The weakest of 60's Doctor Who. Number 5 is The Gunfighters. You guys know I don't like The Gunfighters. And yes, it is mostly down to that song annoying me. I mean, some of the American accents aren't great either. But it's mostly the song. And Steven, I feel like Steven's not done well in it. However, to counterbalance that, I feel like Dodo has done very well in it. The guest cast, other than the accents, are fine. I actually really like the guy playing Doc Holliday a lot. And to be fair, the novelization of this is a good read as well, but we're not counting that. We're going by the TV stories. Now, I haven't seen all of season 3, so it is possible there may be another story that I like less that season, but considering this is the story with that song in it, probably not. Number 4 on the list is The Web Planet. Now for season 2, it got hard because it's really hard for me to pick between The Chase and The Web Planet. The Chase has 2 really good episodes in it and some good stuff in other episodes, but it also has some really bad stuff in other episodes, like that whole Dracula episode. Whereas The Web Planet has a good mix of good and bad going across the whole thing. Ultimately, though, I did go with The Web Planet as my least favorite from season 2, even though I will always give props for the ambition of it. They really did try, and I'll give them props for that. Just some of the things they did, like the Vaseline on the camera, just does not work. Does not work. The story for The Web Planet is fine. The ambitious nature of it is impressive. Just the execution. I mean, there's just, much like with Power of Prowl, that just probably shouldn't have been attempted. They just could not pull that off. As well as that they could have had they had a better budget. Number 3 on the list is The Dominators. The Dominators, I mean, it's nice to watch the Dominators because it is one of the few complete Troughton stories, which is nice, but it's not a great story. I mean, Troughton and Jamie are great in it, but it's not really that good. I've only watched it the one time, but it's going to be really hard to go back to that one. It's going to be, even though it's one of the few complete ones of his, it's going to be hard to go back to that one. It just kind of, it really does get a couple points, mainly because it's a complete Troughton story. That, and then some of the film inserts of the second Doctor, it's very obviously not Troughton in the costume. Number 2 on the list is The Edge of Destruction. I tend to like all of season 1 to one degree or another. The Edge of Destruction I don't much care for, even though it's only 2 parts, but I love the ending. The ending redeems the whole story. It's kind of a reverse Moffat story, where some of Moffat's stories are good until the ending ruins them. This is one where I don't really care for the story, but the ending saves it. I know some people might put the censor rights here, but on my one watch through of the censor rights, I liked it enough, it kept me engaged. That might not happen on rewatches, but it kept me engaged. But the ending of Edge of Destruction is really good. It's really the first time you see the first Doctor kind of being the soft, gentle, caring character. And he's even nice to Barbara at the end. I do enjoy that, so that really does save it. And number 1 on the list is The Faceless Ones, because I don't dislike any of the stories from season 4 that I've seen. I've seen most of season 4 at this point. I've read The Smugglers, and eventually I'll probably watch the reconstruction if it doesn't get animated. I'm waiting to see if it gets animated. But yeah, The Faceless Ones is still fine. I don't think it's bad. Much like how I think The Android Invasion is the weakest of season 13, it's still great. Faceless Ones is still a really good story. The animation is also really good. It does a couple changes I don't agree with, but it's still really good animation. It just happens to be the least good of a really great season. Season 4 is my favorite Troughton season. It's just a run of really good episodes. So it is that situation of, I think it's really good, it just happens to be the weakest of that season, if that makes sense. Although, like I said, 10th Planet was really vying for that spot too, but the first 2 episodes of 10th Planet are really, really good. So it's slightly edged out, Faceless Ones. So that is me ranking what I think are the weakest stories from each season of 60s Doctor Who. I want to know which stories you would pick and how you would rank them. Again, a very, very subjective subject. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to support me that way, there is a link to that in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It does mean a lot. YouTube memberships are available as well if you would rather go that route. I have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, and a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.